I just have to say that I am extremely honored to be presenting and very happy that I have heard about DEVCON for years now. And it's really exciting that because it's virtual, I am finally able to attend and be speaking to everyone today. This talk is going to be a really great follow-up to what Sir Raheel Afzal said about technical skills not being the end-all be-all of your career, not being everything, that they can only get you so far. So I am looking forward to getting into this a little bit further and talking about your professional reputation beyond coding. So Medea gave me a wonderful introduction. I'm also going to add a little bit and repeat a little bit for you and formally introduce myself. As she said, I'm Tara Waddle. I'm a native to the United States, and I'm currently living within Oklahoma, the state of Oklahoma. English is my native language, so that is what I'm going to be speaking in today, though I do have subtitles turned on, and hopefully they're translating well in case my speech isn't clear. For my day job, I work as the Chief Operations Officer with Allshore, and I have been with the company for 10.5 years. It has been quite an experience being able to talk to people and work with people across the world. My colleagues in Pakistan, we have worked with clients in the United States, Canada, Puerto Rico, and the UK, just to name a few places. I've also worked with coworkers in Europe and the Philippines. So again, very rewarding experience. And outside of work, I volunteer with a local nonprofit or NGO called Oklahoma Women in Technology. And it has been very much for me like Code Movement Pakistan has been for you, something that has really helped me refine and sharpen my personal skills, even public speaking skills as well. Also, I do want to mention that I've been a local consultant to small businesses in the tech community that are looking to get their foot in the door, get business generated, and figuring out how to refine their processes, communication, overall operations. So I want to start by answering the big question of why is your professional reputation important? Why are we talking about this today? Professional reputation is everything within the workplace. It is outright what we are known for and the type of work that we are known for producing. It is literally what could make or break your employment, could give you new opportunities, a better earning salary for your family. So without positive professional reputation and credibility, you could be missing out on some really big opportunities. In the tech world, again, technical skills can only get you so far, especially when you are communicating virtually. If you work with any clients or team members remotely, especially in this year with the pandemic, a lot of us are not working in the same location. Soft skills are extra important to determine whether or not you're going to be successful on a project. So it's important to note here that credibility doesn't totally come from within. It isn't always even indicative, again, of our technical skills or years of experience. So despite what we know or what we believe about ourselves, it's ultimately in the interactions with others that can make a much bigger difference. I like this quote from Simon Sinek because it is a reminder of just that. Our reputations do not come from how we talk about ourselves. Our reputations come from how others talk about us. So how do you establish credibility? Let's go over that. I'm going to be going over 4 main tips and elaborating on each of them with some tools that you can practice in your day-to-day within the workplace. So first, learn to speak their language. Now, the there I'm referring to in this is specifically your audience, who you're speaking with, whether it is your client, your boss, your teammates. Language is more than just native tongue, whether you speak Urdu or Punjabi or English. Language is also a general word to describe how we communicate with each other. It can also even refer to your programming language. Language specifically is defined as the words, their pronunciation, and the methods of combining them, used and understood by a community, the vocabulary belonging to an art or a department of knowledge, the form or manner of expression. I thought that this definition was interesting and relates to yesterday when Scott was talking a little bit about this being an art. So all of you are aware of the native languages that people speak to each other. So let's go a little bit deeper than that. Again, I want to focus on the word or the middle definition of vocabulary. What sort of terms have you learned in your technical work that maybe somebody outside of that, a friend or a family member, would just not be able to understand? How would you talk to somebody who doesn't understand coding when you're working on a project together? There are many different reasons why miscommunications can happen, again, especially if you're talking virtually. But for the sake of time, I want to focus on just two key language barriers here that we often encounter when we are working globally. The first being of native language or culture, so again, Urdu and English as an example. And then also technical knowledge or skill level, whether somebody is considered a technical person or a non-technical person. So how do you overcome those? Well, first, know your audience. You have to know who you're talking to and how they communicate as well. Put clearly, if you're wanting to work with someone who only communicates in English, you would need to effectively be able to either communicate in English or to use a translation app. Is your audience technical or are they non-technical? And if they're non-technical, perhaps you can break things down into simpler terms that they would understand. So you need to prepare and understand how to communicate things effectively to your audience in a way that they can understand. Secondly, stay professional. Know that some jokes, some comments, some remarks are not going to go over in the same way with one person that it might with another person. And that's especially important when you're working within different cultures, communities, and people from different countries. Sometimes things just go over in a different way. Thirdly, demonstrate active listening. What this means is when someone is speaking to you, you want to be able to repeat what they have said or to recap your understanding of what's been said to you. This is especially helpful when someone is giving you instructions on a task or an assignment or talking about project requirements. And then lastly, of course, ask questions when you absolutely do not understand and you're unable to find an answer on your own. Secondly, the second tip is taking ownership and responsibility. Sometimes this takes a little bit of experience to truly know how to get in there and demonstrate that you are taking ownership, but you can get started pretty quickly with a few steps, and it is very crucial. Ownership is a direct line to building your credibility and trust. So how do you do that and how do you demonstrate that? Well, first of all, your work should always be viewed as a personal investment. So maybe you are not the person that is actively paying for this project. Maybe it is your job. Maybe you're doing it to earn a salary. That's okay. If it helps to imagine that it is your money being put into this project, and you can think of it even as your time being money and your time being invested in this project, do just that. Demonstrating that you're engaged, that you're interested, that you're excited about a project is going to be very crucial to building trust from the very beginning with someone. You want to show that you want to be a part of every piece of the puzzle as it's coming together to, again, build that trust and ultimately set you up for success. Number 2, own up when you have made a mistake. This is a very big part of ownership and taking ownership over problems. Being honest and humble by confronting the fact that you have made a mistake is really key to building trust. When someone sees that you are willing to admit that you have done something incorrectly, that starts to have the other person feel that you are taking ownership, you understand what it means to take ownership. And then, of course, in that moment, thank your team for their patience with you, apologize if that's necessary, and then immediately start to get to work on a solution. Number 3, be a part of the solution no matter what. So what if it is not your mistake? Mistakes happen. We all know that. In software development especially, there is a lot of trial and error that has to happen to get something just right. So again, maybe you weren't the one who made the mistake, but show others that you're reliable, that you're willing to step up to the challenge, that you are ready to take things on, and you're invested, and you are going to be a part of the solution. Lastly, be upfront and honest with your capabilities, your knowledge, your background, your experience, and your understanding. This will set some clear expectations, especially when you're getting started with project scope, with time estimations, any sort of R&D that you anticipate you may need to do. And again, that's just one more element of building trust, of being transparent, of demonstrating that you care how the project is going to come together, and you care enough to communicate what you need to do to get to that point. If you don't know how to do something that's asked of you, it's best to just say from the beginning that you don't know how to do it. You may not know how to do it right now, but you're ready and you're willing to learn how. That will demonstrate again that you care, you're invested, you're interested, and you're excited to put your best foot forward into the project. Earlier, I mentioned asking questions when necessary. So this is a big tip in and of itself. Ask the right questions. Now, sometimes it can be hard to ask questions or to know what to ask or know when to ask questions. So I want to go into some of the most practical things that you can ask when you're collaborating on a project. First of all, ask what the expected end goal results are for a project. So imagine that you get into your car and you're traveling to a location. Maybe you've never been there before, and maybe you don't know the directions on how you're going to get to that location, but you know what location you are going to end up in. Sometimes that's all that matters. There are multiple routes to get to one location, but you can't achieve success and you're going to have a really rough ride if you don't know what that final destination is supposed to be or what it looks like. If you don't know what the end goal result is supposed to be, how do you know what you're actually building and putting together? How can you contribute to it in an appropriate way and offer expertise if you don't know? So ask to make sure that you do, because that's another way to demonstrate that you are invested in the project, that you're interested, and you are looking to help achieve success. Secondly, ask your project manager, your project lead, your team lead, your client, anyone who is in charge of the project, ask them what their expectations and standards are. Yes, there are some core standards that you can expect with certain programming language, certain types of projects, But those may actually vary depending on who you're working with, the team you're working with, the company or the client that you're working with. There are so many factors that go into that and variables that can make standards different for each project that you work on. So it's best to ask about it rather than waiting and then a mistake is made and expectations aren't met. You don't want to be called out for something like that when you could just ask up front. So that leads into the third point, which is asking for feedback. It's important to know how you're doing. Are you meeting expectations? Is there something that you could be doing better? Asking this question is going to show that you are adaptable, that you're flexible, and that you are willing to make changes to improve yourself personally and professionally to achieve results. And that can be on a technical level or a non-technical level. Feedback can come in many forms. It could be related to a coding standard. It could be related to someone asking you to communicate with them in a different way. If we refer back to the beginning with language, it could be that someone is needing you to simplify information to them because they are non-technical. But you wouldn't know that if you didn't ask for feedback to begin with. Lastly, ask for help when you're absolutely unsure of how to continue. You don't want to get stuck and in a situation where you're wasting time, you're running in circles because you're trying to resolve and answer this question when you don't know the answer. Sometimes it is just important to speak up and ask. One thing that I do want to clarify with asking questions is I personally believe that it is best to try to find the answers on your own first and foremost. Now that could be asking a mentor, someone who has more experience, someone in a group like codemovement.pk, someone that you can connect with to ask for feedback, ask for advice. They might have an answer. Of course, you can look online as well. There are a lot of different options, but at the end of the day, you don't, again, want to be running in circles and trying to resolve this question and running up against a wall. That's not productive. That's the point in time when you stop and ask questions and go from there. So my last tip here, in simple terms, refers to your enthusiasm and that it should match from start to finish. You want to start strong and end strong. So how do you start and end strong? Firstly, use your past experiences to get off to a successful start. The beginning of the project is the perfect opportunity for you to share any expertise, any suggestions, or prior experience that would come in handy when you're getting started on this work. You might have knowledge that others don't. If you are perhaps working on a project and you notice that there are some similarities in that project to something that you worked on before, it would be great to bring that up with your colleagues to demonstrate your expertise real time. Secondly, follow through and keep your word. Stay true to your commitments. If you say you're going to do something, make it happen. And that goes both for the people that you're working with, because you do want to follow through for your team, but you also want to show up and follow through for yourself. That is ultimately the best thing that you can do for yourself to continue with that personal and professional development. And again, that's something that ties back really to what Raheel was speaking about, is showing up and staying committed and true to your craft. That's ultimately the only way that you will get better. Thirdly, identify your weaknesses and areas for improvements. Sometimes, again, that takes you asking for feedback to define what those areas are that you could be better at. But it's crucial that you're honest with yourself about what you could have done differently, what you could have done better, and that you make a note of that so that next time you do know better. Finally, View the entire experience from beginning to the very end as a learning opportunity. Even if it goes wrong, even if it doesn't go as you expected it, a lot of trial and error is expected with projects and software development. So what did you learn from it? What are some lessons or tools that you can incorporate into your next project? There is always something to take away in a positive way, even from any negative experiences. So take that into account and use it to start strong in the next project, and the next project, and then the project after that. This is a continuous cycle that keeps going and continues to build that trust, that credibility, and professionalism within your career. Even being the best technical person, having all of the technical skills that you've acquired in your career so far, that's not going to get you there 100%. When you begin to work on yourself and you continue to learn new things, refine your skills, and admit to yourself that you don't have all the answers, amazing things can happen. I wanted to end with this quote by Brian Koslow as a reminder that having a positive professional reputation can open so many doors and opportunities for you. The quote is, "There is no advertisement as powerful as a positive reputation traveling fast." And that concludes my talk today for DEVCON. I really appreciate the opportunity and being here with all of you, and open to any questions that anyone has.
Thank you so much, Tara. Khurram M has a question for you, so I'll just give it over to Khurram M.
Thank you, Madhya. Hi, Tara.
Hi.
Actually, my question is related to your last quote that you showed us related to the Brian Koslow. Okay, so my question is which number in terms of percentage you can give it to a professional reputation, such as body language, professional ethics, or communication, in contrast to the technical knowledge where there is a case of a technical professional?
That's a great question. I would say that typically it's going to be about 60% technical, because you do have to have that foundation to go off of. You do have to know a little bit about what you're doing. And the other 40%, I would say, is attributed to that reputation, to your soft skills, to how you present yourself. Because in my experience, I've worked with quite a few juniors even that didn't have a lot of experience, didn't have a lot of refined technical skills, but they really wanted it. You can say that they were hungry to learn, and they worked really hard to communicate, over communicate with people, ask questions, and in doing so, they were able to work their way up very quickly because they started building that credibility, they started building that trust. So 60-40 is approximately what I would go with.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
I think that's all that we have as questions. I don't think we have any more questions for you, Tara. So thank you so much, Tara, for joining us today and imparting such amazing information to us. You always inspire us. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you so much.
Now I'd like to